Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the show, Songwriting Simplified, with me, Jonny Lipsham, right here on the Jonny Lipsham Studios YouTube channel, and I could not get the words out fast enough there. Sorry about that. So, I hope everybody's doing well. Welcome to Wednesday. Normally would be over on the Home Studio Trainer YouTube channel, but occasionally I host the show myself on my own right here. So, and tonight is one of those nights where I'm hosting by myself, and that's cool. It's all fine. But for those of you that are curious as to kind of what's been going on and why I'm hosting the show on my own and why Jonny has not been doing any live streams at all this week, he is taking a little bit of a well-earned breather. He does an awful lot. He does a lot more than you probably realize for Presonus customers. He does his nightly live stream. He also does an awful lot of technical support for people. He runs the official Presonus Facebook page, and he runs an excellent team of administrators and moderators there. And he also has his own website. He has his own Facebook groups as well, and he does all of that. Plus, he does some other bits and pieces for Presonus as well. So he's a very, very busy bloke. Plus, he has his day job, or day jobs, I think it is now. I think he has 2 day jobs. So he is a very busy bloke, and as such is in need of just a bit of a rest. As you know, things have gotten just a little bit hectic for him, and so he needs a bit of a breather. So that's what he's doing this week. He is taking some well-earned rest. He said to me yesterday, he may do a short show tomorrow, but he is not guaranteeing it at this point. So if he does pop up, he pops up, and it may well be something pretty spontaneous. But that's just to give you the background to what's going on this particular week. And I am always, as usual, very happy to host the show myself on this channel for Songwriting Simplified. And sometimes, if I have another night available, I will also do a show as well. But of course, the other show that I do is Sunday Night Live, which I have done every Sunday night, barring a few occasions like Christmas and I think New Year's. I think there have been occasions where we haven't done a Sunday Night Live, but for the most part, we do a Sunday Night Live show every Sunday at 6 p.m. Central Time, right here on this channel. I was about to say over on my channel, but this is my channel. So yeah, so that's kind of what we do right here. And so, just so that you know, I've done a little bit of calculating of things, and I've had some help from Kyle to do some calculating. And I'm pretty certain, and Kyle can correct my math if he would like to. I'd be happy if he did, to be honest, before I totally embarrass myself. But I'm pretty confident that the show coming up on this Sunday is the 200th Sunday Night Live. So that being the case, we will have a bit of a party and a bit of a celebration of the 200th Sunday Night Live. So that would be really, really cool. So I would like as many people as possible to come along. on Sunday. So if you, you have friends who you think, Sunday Night Live would suit them, it's a good place where, they are Studio One users or they are considering moving over to Studio One, and you think that Sunday Night Live would be a great thing for them to get their toes wet in Studio One, then please do get them along. Send them a link to the show. But for right now, I think it'd be pretty cool if we just take your songwriting and your songwriting and arranging and music theory questions and those kind of things. The last several times I have hosted on my own, you guys have asked some fantastic questions. And in fact, last Sunday was a great Sunday Night Live where you guys asked some absolute belting questions, and it turned out to be a really great show. So please do get your questions in the chat just now, and let's see what we can do. Let's see if you guys can really stump me. I mean, trust me, the bar is not that high. Yes, I do have a music degree in composition, and yes, I do have much higher accolades and qualifications in musicology and music education. But let's get those questions in. So Waveform has a question. He says, can you please explain and demonstrate mid-side mixing? Well, this is Songwriting Simplified, so we don't really talk about mixing on this show. That would be for Sunday or for one of Jonny's shows. But for the most part, this is all about songwriting. So Waveform, please hold your question and we'll tackle it on Sunday. Okay, I've got a couple of questions that folks have emailed me already lined up for Sunday. So if you want to hold your question and email it to me, we'll get it into Sunday's show as well. As I said, I've got a few already emailed to me. So, and I would love it if you guys were able to send me some more emailed questions, as well as getting them in the chat. Let's have a combination of both. Let's have planned questions and some spontaneity as well. I like both. Waveform says, I like your shows done alone. You know your theory and can play and know how to use Studio One. A 3 for a win-win-win. Oh, that's very kind of you to say so. Thank you very much. But that's not to say that Jonny is kind of like the weaker of the two of us. He's not. We both have a different approach to songwriting. We both have a different approach to music making. I have just spent an awful lot of time kind of studying the finer details of music theory and getting very, very deep into the weeds with that. Mostly because I am one of those people that likes to take things apart and then figure out how they work and then put them back together again and then put them to use. That's kind of how I work. It's very hands-on. It's very experimental. That's kind of how I learn. I don't really learn loads from just reading and memorizing textbooks, even though I can do that. I can read and I can photographically memorize textbooks. That's how I got through my degrees. But my preferred method of learning is to take things apart, learn what they do, and then put them back together and then actually practically apply them to a songwriting situation or a composing situation. So that's why I kind of know what I know about music theory. It's not because I've studied lots and lots of books and read lots and lots of books. That's a very, very small part of it. It's mostly about what I have just sat down at the piano and tried to figure out. It's very practical. But yeah. So, Ballad has a question. Ballad Studios. In fact, I've not gone through to basically name check everybody. I should do that. Billy Morgan was first in the house. He was very early. And John Hawk is here. Mike at Music to Motion is here. Lollipop Gill says hello. Hello to you too. I'm very glad you're here. Sorry, that was maybe slightly over demonstrative. John Edgar is here. Don Oliver is here, and Rich Cresswell at My Personas is here, and Ronald Figuera is driving. Okay, that's fine. He can listen in. And Waveform Laboratory is here as well, as we've said. Bob's New York is here. Tony Stringer is here as well, which is awesome. Peter Brooks is here. Where is Jonny? I have just explained that at the top of the show. Jonny is taking a well-earned breather because he does such a lot. And I don't want him to kind of burn himself out. So, yeah, that's why I'm doing the show at the moment. Who else is here? Dwayne is here. Congratulations on 200 shows on Sunday. I'll have to watch this show later. Then that's not a problem at all, mate. He says he'll hit the like button, which is great. Thank you. And there we go. Okay, so I've got down to the bottom. All right, let's go back to the questions. John says, I think we have all been there like Jonny. I could fill several volumes on self-disclosure experiences, both good and not so good. Yes, absolutely. Ballad says, oh dear God. I'd like to hear you talk about diminished and augmented chords as passing chords, like diminished chords going up a full step or a half step. Certainly can do that, because I've got a great little example that will cover that. So here we go. Let's do that. So I like to use diminished chords as a way of passing from one chord to another. And it really works in a major key. It'll work in a minor key just as well, but I like it in a major key. So let's do this in the key of B flat. Let's swap that sound out for this sound. Let's turn that down just a hair. All right, so we're in B flat major. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a set of chord changes that are loosely based on the chord changes of I Got Rhythm by George Gershwin. And I'm going to use a diminished or a half diminished chord to lead into chord 2 from chord 1. And basically it is replacing chord 5. It's a substitute for chord 5 going to chord 1 in C minor. So chord 5 into chord 1 in C minor would go like this. So I'm going from here, and I could go. So I'll play that again. So we're going B flat, G, C minor, then I'm going A7, D minor, and then I'm going all the way around to G7, C minor, which is 2-5-1 in B flat. Okay, but instead of going to G, I'm going to use that B half diminished. And the reason why I'm using that is because if I take away the G from G7, now we've got that B half diminished, so it works as a substitute going into C minor. So that's what I'm going to do. And then I'm going to do the next one up. I'm going to do C sharp diminished into D minor. And it's a nice little kind of, it's a nice little ascending bass line. So there's the use of the B half diminished as a substitute for G7 going to C minor, C sharp half diminished, substituting for A7 to D minor, then we go, and that brings us to chord 3 in B flat. So we're going to go 3, 6, 2, 5, and then 1, and then we'll go flat 7 as a substitute for 5. And that's kind of a nice little set of chord changes for a 1950s blues ballad. And that's kind of what I set that up for. So the half diminished chord works as a nice little passing chord into a minor chord. Doesn't work quite so well going to a major chord, but it definitely works as a passing chord going up into a minor chord a half step above it. All right, so, and it works as a substitute for chord 5 brilliantly. So you could definitely make use of that. But that's a great question. Bob says, share a quick relation of circular fifths as to tension in passing chords. Just an idea. Circular fifths is a subject I think I have covered before. And essentially it is just a circle of keys going round in fifths if you go clockwise, but if you go anti-clockwise, it's in fourths. So you can call it either a circle of fifths or a circle of fourths. If you go round clockwise, you go increasing sharps, then you get to about 6 o'clock when you're at maximum sharps, and then you start going flats. You go max sharps, max flats, and then you start going down in flats until you get back to C at 12 o'clock. So C, G, D, A, E, and so on, until you get to maximum sharps, which would be F sharp or G flat. G flat has maximum number of flats. There are other theoretical keys as well, such as C flat major and a few others that are kind of purely theoretical. I think we covered this last week, actually. So yeah, and it's just basically a circle of keys. And the cool thing is it's dead easy to get from one to another, just by using 2-5-1s. Now, there is something else out there that you may or may not find on Google called the Harmonic Wheel. Harmonic Wheel is all well and good. It's, to me personally, it makes the whole thing of getting from one key to another way more complicated than it needs to be, which is why I'm not that interested in it. But it's a very interesting concept. It's a very interesting theory that I could do a deeper dive into in a future show, and maybe put the two side by side, maybe circular fifths and then the harmonic wheel, which is kind of based on it, but it goes into a lot more kind of interrelated detail. And it gets a little bit convoluted and a little bit complicated, and it's going to go over most people's heads, to be honest. Only musicologists like me are probably going to be interested in it, or maybe, you know, John Edgar might be interested in it as well. But really, I personally don't see that it has that much in the way of practical value. There is a very easy way to get from one key to any other key in all of Western music that is based on 12-tone equal temperament and the major minor tonal system. And that is the key that is 2-5-1. That's how you get from one key to another. If I start in B flat like I was before, and I want to go to any other key, so let's say I want to go to the key of D flat from here, which is up a minor third, then I do 2-5-1 in D flat, which is going to be chord 2, because there's 1, chord 2, minor, chord 5 to 1. Let's simplify that harmonically a little bit, so we'll go. And then if I want to go to the key of E from there, I would go F sharp minor, B flat 7 to E. And let's say I want to go back to C. 2-5-1, D minor, G7, C. And then I want to go back to B flat, C minor, F7, B flat. It's dead easy. Now, what about minor keys? Well, this is where that half diminished chord comes back in again. So if I want to go to the key of G minor, I do chord 2 in G minor, which is going to be half diminished. So I'm going to go A half diminished, or A7 flat 5, to D7. And then if I want to go to B flat minor, I've got to pull out like that. So I have to do C half diminished, C7, C minor 7 flat 5, F7 flat 9, to B flat minor. And then let's say C minor from there. D half diminished, G, 7 sharp 5 in this case. So that's how you get from one key to any other key on the planet. In all of Western music, that's how you do it. In other tonalities, it's a little bit more complex because they're not necessarily equal. So some keys will sound better than others. Whereas in 12-tone equal temperament in the major minor system, any key is equal to any other key. So that answers that one. Peter Brooks is asking where Jonny is. Johnny's having a break. Rich Cresswell says, I may know the answer, but here's a question for you. What are accidentals in music theory? Accidentals is a good one. So accidentals are notes that do not belong to a particular key. So let's take, for example, the key of C major. There are no accidentals in the key of C major because it is all white notes. Okay? But the key of D major, which is one step up, to get that same scale, I have to introduce an F sharp and a C sharp. If I was to play the same scale, but on white notes exclusively, I get the Dorian mode. Not necessarily what I want. If I want to go to D major, I have to raise that F to an F sharp, and then I have to raise that C to a C sharp. So if I'm wanting to modulate, change key from the key of C to the key of D major, I need a 2-5-1. I need an E minor. And there's that leading tone, the C sharp. So as soon as you see that C sharp, the C sharp does not belong to the key of C major. So that is an accidental. And neither does the F sharp. So you would at that point write a new key signature. You'd write the key signature of D major, which has an F sharp and a C sharp in it. Okay? But sometimes, even if you are in a particular key and you're going to stay in that key, you might want to write a particular note that doesn't belong to the key. It happens. Like, maybe you want to evoke a particular mood, maybe something slightly mysterious, you know, so maybe you start to invoke the whole tone scale. Okay, so the whole tone scale is basically made up of whole tones, or, you know, whole steps is what you'd call them in the United States. So C, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp. So those three blank notes, they don't belong, okay? But let's say I want to evoke a particular mood, and I want to just hint at that scale by having the F sharp in there. So I'm playing a D chord over the C bass. So we're definitely in the key of C, but the F sharp is an accidental because it doesn't belong. naturalize the F, when I want to emphasize that we're really staying in the key of C. So I can go like that. And that kind of emphasizes, the F natural emphasizes, no, we're not going into a new key. We're staying put. So that's what accidentals are. They are notes that do not belong to the key or the scale that you're using for your piece. All right, so I hope that answers that question. That is a good one, though. When it comes to breaking down some valued music theory rules, what would be your go-to ones you recall? Well, it depends upon the context, because music theory is meaningless without a musical context in which to put it. So I could talk about things that I've just talked about. Sorry, I'm a little bit uncomfortable in my chair. I could talk about kind of some of the things that I've just talked about modes, about flat nines, sharp nines, flat 13s, sharp 13s, sharp 11s. I could talk all about extensions to dominant seventh chords. I could talk about 3/6/2/5 ones, but it's all technobabble without a musical context. So you know, I could talk about tritonal substitutions, and I could also talk about Coltrane chord substitution theory, as developed by the tenor sax titan John Coltrane. I could talk all about that all day. I could talk literally all day about advanced harmony and harmonic principles and harmonic rules. But without a musical context, it's meaningless. It's just knowledge, it's just technobabble. It's like, you know, I could be standing on the bridge of the Starship Enterprise and saying all of that, and it would make sense to nobody. And you don't get photon torpedoes in music theory, unfortunately. But, yeah, so music theory rules are kind of meaningless without a musical context. But here's the thing about music rules and music theory rules, is that they serve a particular purpose. And that particular purpose is to teach you guiding principles of how the basic building blocks of the language that is music works. Just as the same, when you sit in your high school French class or your high school German class, you learn vocabulary, you learn verbs, you learn adverbs, you learn prepositions, you learn suppositions, you learn adjectives, you learn, you know, passive voice, you learn all of that kind of stuff. And you could sit and you could read books and books and books on all of those things in German, but it means nothing if you never speak a word of German and if you never talk to a German person in German. Makes no sense. It doesn't help you. So, and the cool thing about any language, music included, is that these rules, they're not really rules, they're guiding principles. They are that's why that works. A 2-5-1 takes you from one key to another. That's how it works. I've showed you how it works. You know, so somebody smarter than me sat down at the piano and did that and then reverse engineered it and worked out why it works. Oh, it's a chord 2 to a chord 5 to a chord 1, and it takes me to a new key. That's brilliant. And that's how I discovered it too. I didn't really read about it too terribly much in books. I read it in books after the fact, after I'd already figured it out at the piano. For the most part, because like I said, that's how I work. Not everybody's me, not everybody's like me. But the cool thing about these rules with any language is that they can be bent, they can be perturbed, they can be broken, they can be suspended in order to make a particular sound you want to make. So just like you have slang in any language, and you could have rhyming slang in any language. You can have slang in music, because music is just as much a language as German is, as French is, as Spanish is, as Russian is. They're all languages, and you can all learn different dialects and different verbiage and different slang terms. Just, that's how blues developed. Blues is slang in the language of music. Essentially, it takes the rules of music, it takes two cultural ideas of music and how music should sound, and it bashes them together until it makes sense. And that's blues music. It takes the music of Africa, takes the rhythm of Africa, it takes those bent and smeared notes of Africa and throws them into a Western European musical context via the slave trade, and the two systems butt heads for a bit until they come together, and you get this beautiful music called blues. And from that you get gospel music, you get jazz, you get R&B, you get soul, you get funk, you get R&B, I think I said that already, and you get rock, and you get heavy rock, and you get fusion, and you get, unfortunately, Kenny G. But you get all of these different musics, all from bending the rules. So anyway, that's my little rant on rules. Rules are only valuable to a certain point. But great question, actually. Let's see, the chat jumped massively. But yeah, cool question. Kyle says, per the playlist on YouTube, next Sunday show will be number 251. Okay, so I am very wrong. Okay, so it's a little bit more than 200. Okay, so we are on show number 251 on Sunday. Okay, so maybe not quite such a party, but that's okay. I think last Sunday was actually show 250, and we should have celebrated, and we forgot. So maybe we will celebrate show 250 this week, having not celebrated it last week. So there we go. Thank you, Kyle, for doing that for me. I appreciate it. Let's see. Rich asks, what is your opinion on the grading system used in Western teaching of music theory? I could answer that really, really, really honestly and probably end up getting sued. I think it has some value. It has some merit, but not a lot. Because grading is kind of a little bit arbitrary. But I suppose it has to be done in order to show a student's particular level of attainment, where what they know, what they understand, and what they can demonstrate that they have a practical working knowledge of. And that's fair enough. You've got to say, okay, this person has this level of competency. And I suppose it is for, when you want somebody to come work for you, or you have a need in your business for a particular employee, you will want to be looking for certain levels of competency that they have that will fit the role that you have a gap for in your business. So I suppose they have that kind of merit value, don't they? But that said, there are terrible, terrible, terrible musicians who have acquired grade 8 on their instrument. And they are absolutely soulless in their performances. That's where the grading system fails students over and over again. And I'm pointing my finger at all of the examination boards, not just the big ones. I'm pointing them at all of them. It's a weakness. It is a huge flaw in that it inspires teachers to teach to have their students pass a test, so they then can show their own standard of competency as a teacher and their own standard of educational prowess, because everything is measured by metrics in education, unfortunately. A teacher's standard is measured by how successful their students are. you know, and again, that's measured by what their grades are, what their levels of attainment are. However, attaining grade 8 in electric guitar following a particular syllabus doesn't mean you are a great guitar player or even a good guitar player. It just means you can play the pieces and you can play the scales and you can play the chord changes that you are required to pass that test. That's it. You know, when you pass your driving test, yes, you are now legally allowed to drive solo on the open roads, including the highways and the motorways and the freeways and whatever. Doesn't necessarily mean that you are a great driver. It means you are a competent driver sufficient to handle driving a car on your own on a highway. So that's kind of how I feel about it. Really? It has some value, but really it doesn't make you a great musician. It doesn't mean that you're a great composer either. You know, having a degree in composition doesn't necessarily mean you are a gifted, great composer. It means that you have attained a certain level of compositional ability and you are able to demonstrate that you have a good understanding of certain orchestrational concepts. Doesn't mean that you're going to be the next Amadeus Mozart. But yeah, that was another bit of a rant. Maybe you guys like or don't like my rants. Okay, Ballad Studio says, as a follow-up, would this work in using a diminished chord for modulating up one step? So going from G major to A major. All right, let's try it and see. That's the way we try things. You propose a hypothesis, you test the hypothesis, and you predict the outcome. Before you test it, you go, I hypothesize that using a half diminished chord as a substitute for chord 5 going into A major is going to work. It's going to sound fine. Let's test it. G. Does that work? It does, but it's not very strong, is it? I'm trying to revoice it to see if I can make it stronger. It kind of does work. It maybe work better if there was an E over G sharp instead, you know. Maybe. Just carrying this on. Let's see. It kind of works, but it's not really very strong. Going to the minor would work better. So going... So it works if you do going to the minor from that diminished chord. Works better, but I mean, you know, it... kind of works. Kind of works. I guess it's kind of up to you to decide whether you think that that's weaker or stronger if you go to A minor rather than A major. But it potentially works, and the reason why it works is because it's that G sharp is substituting for E7. You see what I mean? So it kind of substitutes for the 5-1, 5 going to 1. But that's a good little follow-up. I like that. Let's see, what else do we have? Ballad says, I'll be reviewing tonight when it goes up on YouTube. Cool. Awesome. No bother. Bob said, in many bands I work with, we all did a boatload of accidentals. Yeah, absolutely. You know, if you work in, you know, kind of, if you work in jazz a lot, or you work in funk, or you work in fusion, or you know, any kind of, or progressive rock even, any extensions of those things, then yes, you're going to probably work with a boatload of accidentals, because you will be maybe changing key quite frequently, or you'll be extending chords with altered intervals above the octave, you know, like flat 13, sharp 11s, that kind of stuff. And then you'll also be getting into some fairly juicy, interesting scales, like diminished whole tone scales. I think I talked about this before, where on a dominant 7th chord, I will mix up using Mixolydian scale with the diminished whole tone scale. And the reason being is because they have a particular flavor, a particular amount of dissonance that you can then resolve, or not, as the case may be. And certainly the diminished whole tone scale, which is basically, it starts on the flat 2 of G. So there's our G7. There's that diminished whole tone scale. So it's basically an A flat melodic minor scale. But starting it, it's the A flat melodic the A flat melodic minor scale. But we're playing it over the top of a G chord. So it's like the half diminished scale, a half step above the chord that we're on. It just provides a particular flavor of dissonance, and you know, half of those notes don't belong to the chord, so let alone the key. No swearing. Yes. Ideas for writing a chorus in a ballad. Okay. Writing a chorus in a ballad, you got to make it big, in my opinion, and emotional. So, you know, if you're telling a particularly sad or lonely tale in your ballad, then you got to make the chorus the kind of the center point emotionally of your song, and make good use of rhyme, whether that be internal rhyme, which is where the rhyme is in the middle of the line rather than at the end of couplets, for example, which is, a lot of people do rhyming couplets. Thank you, Shakespeare, and thank you, you know, a whole bunch of Greek poets and stuff that inspired couplets and that kind of thing. But a lot of people do that. You don't have to. You can put the rhyme in the middle, so you can have a line where there's a word in the middle that rhymes with the middle word of the next line. You can do that, and it's perfectly legit. But yeah, the thing that you want to do is have the chorus as the kind of the emotional centerpiece of your song. So if your song is really sad, then, you know, that's where the bulk of the emotion of the song needs to be. You know, there's songs like Dolly Parton's I Will Always Love You, which is a very emotional, very powerful song. And songs like that about unrequited love, you know, the chorus there is, and I will always love you. And, you know, that's really the hook of the whole song. The whole song is about that. So there's a story, there's a narrative, there's two characters within the story. and there's the narrator of the song, the person that's at the center of the song in the chorus basically states, and I will always love you, even if you don't, you know. And there's other songs like that. There's there's a Bonnie Raitt song, and the title of which has just escaped my memory, which in the family band with my mother singing, I used to accompany her on piano, and I'm trying to think what the darn song is. Darn it, barn it, I can't remember what it's called. Bruce Hornsby played a beautiful, beautiful piano solo on it. And, you know, that's a mother-daughter song. And I can't remember what it's called. So if you're writing lyrics for a chorus, make the chorus your centerpiece emotionally of your song. Let's see. I think I've done that one. Bellop is saying as a key change, maybe. I'm not sure what you're referring to there as a key change. 7 to 8 verses would get you half steps. I have no idea what you're talking about. So if modulating from the key of G to the key of A, how about that? Yeah, I'm not quite sure what you're talking about. But certainly, like I said, you can go, you know, you can have chord 5 with the third in the bass and have the same effect. You can definitely do that, and that will work just as well. For sure. And it'll give you that that sense of that half diminished sound. No, not Total Eclipse of the Heart. John says, are there any songs that come to mind where the extension of tonality is fairly obvious or not so much? Green Earrings. If you mean the tonality is ambiguous, then certainly Steely Dan's Green Earrings is a great example of it, because all the chords in that song are based around stacks of fourths. So a chord built out of intervals of a fourth. So A to D to G. And it has this vamp. So those are the kind of the chord changes to Green Earrings, and it's definitely tonally ambiguous. It doesn't really have, I mean, it's loosely kind of in A minor-ish, but it's not really. It's just based around, I guess, kind of that kind of A Dorian thing. Kind of based around that A Dorian kind of thing. And there's a whole bunch of songs that are kind of modal like that. Green Earrings, seconds within the triad. No, it's not seconds, it's stacks of fourths. So there's no triads at all. They are quartal voicings. So a bit like Alexander Courage's Star Trek theme, which starts with fourths. It's 2 stacks of fourths, going from there to there, essentially. And the idea is, you know, space, the final frontier, is kind of, it's meant to be open sounding and mysterious. And fourths will get you that. Doing something modal will get you something that sounds mysterious. For sure, especially if you're working in Phrygian mode or Locrian mode. Because they are weird sounding. Alright, so that's a good question as well. I like that. Oh! I've remembered the Bonnie Raitt song. It's called I Can't Make You Love Me. And it's a beautiful song. I absolutely love it. And basically, it's about a mother who has a big falling out with her daughter. And basically, she's saying, I think, am I confusing two songs here? I might be confusing two songs. But anyway, the chorus of that song is, I can't make you love me if you won't. I can't make your heart feel something it won't. Here in the dark, in these final hours, I will lay down my heart and I'll feel the power, but you won't. So that's kind of the emotional center of that song. And that's why that chorus is such a great chorus. It has a big, wide melodic leap, which I obviously can't perform or can't sing right now because we'll get a copyright strike. But, you know, it has this really big, wide melodic leap within the chorus that you don't have in the verses. The verses are really quite contained, and they tend to be quite low in register. But when you get to the chorus, suddenly it opens up, and you know the chorus features these wide intervallic leaps that you don't get in the verses of the song. So it's a really great, very, very well written song. And there's lots of really great arranging in the song. Not just that you've got Bruce Hornsby's fantastic piano playing, but you've got some beautiful Hammond B3 organ in there. You've got the subtlest drum part ever. It's just brushes on a snare drum, hi-hat with a kick drum. There's no massive drum fills or anything like that. It's great. It's so super simple. And there's some fretless bass. And Bruce Hornsby's piano solo is just a thing of beauty. If you want to hear really great, really emotive and emotional piano playing, you got to check out Bruce Hornsby's piano solo on that song, which apparently he did in one take. He did the whole piano part for that song in one take with Bonnie singing the vocal in the vocal booth. And they did the vocal and the piano part in one take live in the recording room with her in the vocal booth and him in the piano booth. And it's just a thing of beauty. You got to check it out. Let's see what else we got. Pick up book website on Harmony Theory by Walter Piston. Yeah, that's a pretty good resource right there. That song is about adult. Yes, I now see I was confusing one song with a completely different song of hers that's on the same record. But yeah. It's a great record. It's one of my favorites of hers, and that was the first time I really discovered Bruce Hornsby as a piano player. Obviously Bruce Hornsby in the Range, the song "That's Just the Way It Is," which is a great song, and his piano solo on that song is terrific. But then you hear him do this with Bonnie Raitt. And then from there, I discovered his solo records that he made with Jimmy Haslip, the bass player from the Yellow Jackets, and some other really, really, really terrific session musicians on his solo albums that he's done without the Range. And I think the first record of his that I got into was called Harbor Lights, which is a great, great record. It's a perfect blend, actually, of pop songs and jazz, and it really shows Bruce's kind of roots in, southern United States jazz and, Louisiana jazz and all of that. Combine that with, his American folk influences and his bluegrass influences. And there's, country in there as well, just like there is for Bonnie Raitt. Bonnie Raitt has a terrific range. She's just as good at singing blues and country music as she is singing a jazz ballad like I Can't Make You Love Me, which is kind of a jazz pop thing, but it's really, really great. So there we go. We are at the end of the show, folks. But yeah, check out the Bonnie Raitt I Can't Make You Love Me. George Michael, the English vocalist, pop singer, did a really great cover of it, actually. I thought he wouldn't be able to pull it off, but he really, really did. He did a great version of it that's just as dripping in emotion as Bonnie's original. It was a great reading of that song. All right, so there we go. We are at the end of the show, and I want to give everybody a terrifically big thank you for the great questions. I didn't get to all of them. I tried to get through as many as I could. But absolutely some great questions there. And if you didn't get your question answered, or you would like to go into some more depth maybe on a particular question, then you know what to do. Go to the website down there, johnnylipshamstudios.co.uk. Scroll down to the bottom of the page, fill out the contact form there, send me an email, and add your question. Or if you want to explore a particular topic in a lot more detail on if it's songwriting and arranging and composing, that kind of thing, we can do that on a Wednesday show for Songwriting Simplified. And if you've got like Waveform had a great question on mid-side mixing, which is not really something I do a great deal of, because mostly the work that I do for mixing and mastering it doesn't really require it particularly. But yeah, there, you can email me that question. Ballad says, I need your new shipping address. Can you drop me an email? Because I don't know that I still have your email address. Drop me an email, and I will send you my my address. So yeah, that would be very cool. Thank you very much for all of your support, everybody. I really appreciate you guys a lot. Thank you to my mod team, the guys that all have the blue wrenches. You guys are fantastic. Thank you very much for your help and for your support and for keeping everything nice, clean, crisp in the chat as well, and making sure that I get to see questions. So thanks a lot, folks, and I will see you guys all on Sunday, 6 p.m. back here for Sunday Night Live. If you've got a subject or a question for that show, get it emailed to me. Or you can just ask it in the chat on the show. It's up to you which you would prefer to do. But yeah. All right, folks. I will see you guys Sunday. Good night.